Friends, Gaston Leroux had written this novel. The name of this novel is The Phantom of the Opera. The Phantom of Opera by Gaston Leroux. So Gaston Leroux had written this novel in 1910. The Phantom of Opera follows a narrator's investigation into the action and identity of the mysterious Phantom of the Opera. In the 1880s, strange events have been unfolding at the Paris Opera House, convincing people that the opera must be haunted. The opera ghost or phantom has been said to appear as a black figure with a skull, face covered in a yellow, rotten skin with burning eyes. From the beginning, the narrator affirms that the phantom does exist, but it is in fact a human being, not a ghost. In the 1880s, on Debini and Poligny last night as opera directors, chaos erupts when ballerinas claim to have seen the opera ghost. Moments later, chief stage machinist Joseph Bouquet is found dead, hanging beneath the stage, although his death is attributed to suicide under natural circumstances. When people arrive to retrieve his corpse, they can find no sign of the rope. The narrator concludes that these can hardly be considered natural circumstances and that there must be another explanation besides suicide. On the same evening, Christine Dye, the protagonist, the heroine of this novel, a little known soprano, replaces her colleague Carlotta, who is ill. Christine sings so beautifully that the public remains astonished, wondering why her talent has been hidden for so long. In the audience, Viscount Raoul de Chagny, Christine's childhood friend who is deeply in love with her, goes to talk with her backstage. However, Christine pretends not to recognize him, and later Raoul hears her talk to a man in a dressing room. The man declares his love for her, and Christine in turn tells him that she has given him her soul. Overcome by jealousy, Raoul waits for Christine to leave so that he can confront this rival. But when the room opens, Raoul is shocked to discover that Christine's dressing room is empty. Raoul writes Christine many letters, and Christine finally replies, saying that she does remember him after all. She tells him, Raoul, she will be at Perros-Guirec, the village in Normandy where they first met as children. And Raoul hurries to meet her there. During the journey, Raoul recalls their childhood. Christian's father was musical prodigy in Sweden, considered the best violin player in Scandinavia. After a man named Professor Valerius discovered his talent, he brought Dye and Christine to Paris, where Christine soon developed her own musical talent as a singer. During trips to Normandy, Christine became acquainted with Raoul. Together they listened to local Breton legend and to Christine's father's stories. One story in the particular remained impressed on Christine's mind, the story of the angel of music, who can turn musicians into prodigies. At Piro's, Raoul declares his love to Christine, but she laughs at him. He then attacks her for talking to a man in her dressing room. Distressed, Christine leaves. Later, however, she tries to explain her situation to Raoul. She tells him that she has been visited by the angel of music, whom her father has sent her after his death. When Raoul realizes that Christine is not talking metaphorically, but about someone who gives her music lesson in her dressing room, he burst out laughing. Furious at the thought that Raoul no longer believes her to be a respectable woman, that is, one who does not welcome man in her dressing room alone, Christine leaves. That night, Raoul hears Christine leave the inn to go to the cemetery. He follows her, though she is too absorbed in her task to notice him. At the cemetery in front of Christine's father's tomb, Christine suddenly raises her arms to the sky and music emerges from nowhere. The beautiful, heart wrenching rendering of Lazarus, which Dai used to perform on his violin when they were children. Once the music ends, Raoul pursues a mysterious man whom he believes to be the musician. All the way to the church, there Raoul grabs the man's coat, and when the man turns around, Raoul sees a skull with burning eyes. Trusting that this must be a vision of hell, Raoul faints and is found the next morning unconscious by the church. Meanwhile, at the opera, new directors Richard and Moncharmin are frustrated to receive the Phantom's letter, which they believe to be a prank. They fire Mademoiselle Giri, the box attendant who claims to have personal interaction with the ghost, which the directors believe to be a proof of her insanity. In the Phantom's letter, however, he makes various respect to leave his private box 5 empty, to let Christine sing Marguerite in Faust. Since Carlotta will be ill, and to make sure his box attendant Mademoiselle Giri returns, the Phantom threatens to curse the theatre if his desires are not respected. The director ignored the Phantom's demand. Carlotta, who has received an anonymous letter enjoining her not to perform, decide to sing anyway. As a result, the Phantom punishes her by causing her voice to croak in the middle of the performance, a shocking occurrence that the audience understand as some kind of conspiracy, since Carlotta's voice is too perfect to break in its own. The Phantom then causes the chandelier to fall from the ceiling. One person dies from being crushed by it. Richards so concierge, the woman with whom he planned to replace Mademoiselle Giri. After this evening, Christine disappears. Raoul searches for her everywhere. When he interrogates Mademoiselle Valerius, Professor Valerius' wife, who has taken care of Christine since she was a child, she says that Christine is spending time with her guardian spirit, the angel of music, who gives her music lesson and was forbidden her to marry. Raoul concludes that the old woman is crazy and might also have influenced Christine with her deluded belief in fairy tales. However, Raoul's emotions oscillate between fury and pity for Christine. He wonders if Christine is the victim of someone's manipulation, or if she herself is an expert manipulator intent on deceiving him to hide a romantic affair. Raoul then receives a letter from Christine enjoining him to meet her at the masked ball that evening. There, Christine invokes her love for him and declares that she wants to share her story with him. However, even though Raoul knows that he might be overreacting by distrusting her, he is too overcome with jealousy and insecurity to contain himself. He lashes out at Christine, accusing her of being deceitful. Upset, Christine leaves Raoul, then hides in her dressing room, where he hears her pity a man called Eric and sees her disappear suddenly through the mirror as in the act of magic. Utterly confused, Raoul nevertheless succeed in meeting with Christine at the opera again. There, Raoul tells Christine that he plans to leave on expedition to the North Pole soon. He discovered that they do in fact share reciprocal love, and the two of them thus decide to become secret fiancés uh, for the short time they have left together. One night, Christine takes Raoul to the roof where she tells Raoul her entire story. She explains that when she first heard a beautiful voice talk and sing to her, she believed it to be an angel of music her father had promised to send her. However, on the night the chandelier fell, Christine magically found herself transported to the other side of her dressing room mirror. When she found herself in the dark, damp tunnel, a masked figure took her to his lair on the other side of an underground lake. Realizing that this man was the same person as the voice and must also be the opera ghost, Christine was deeply disappointed. The man was not an angelic figure, but a mere human, Eric, who then declared his love to her. Although she concluded that he must be mad, she couldn't help but moved to by his music. On on one occasion, while Eric was singing, she forgot her promise never to touch his mask and removed it. With horror, she discovered a monstrous skull like face whose ugliness terrified her. Furious and sad at Christine's reaction, Eric planned to keep Christine with him forever. However, he ultimately let her leave after a couple of weeks, though he gave her a ring as a symbol of her faithfulness to him and made her promise to visit him regularly. After hearing this story, Raoul concludes that they must live together immediately. But Christine says that this would cause Eric too much grief. She agrees to escape with Raoul the following night, although she admits that she might lose her resolve and will then need Raoul to force us to follow him. So during this conversation, neither character knows that Eric has been eavesdropping and is aware of the plan. Raoul thus prepares his carriage to leave with Christine the following night. Aware of Raoul's plan to marry Christine, Raoul's older brother, Count Philip, a respectable nobleman attached to social norm, tells Raoul that he disapproves of his relationship with Christine, a mere singer, not a member of nobility. This leads the two brothers to fight, a circumstance that later convinced criminal investigator Inspector Mifrot and Amfraur to conclude mistakenly that Philip's later death and Raoul's disappearance must be connected to the brother disagreement. That night, Christine is suddenly abducted in the middle of her performance. Desperate to find her, Raoul joins forces with mysterious character, the Parisians who knows Eric intimately. The Parisians lead Raoul to Eric's secret retreat, although they fall in a torture chamber, a room whose walls are covered in mirror capable of creating strange illusion. There they find a Punjab record, cord, the rope that Parsians conclude must have been used to murder Joseph Bouquet. He assumes Bouquet discovered Eric liar and this caused his wrath. which led Eric to kill him. The Parisians also recounts important aspect of Eric's life. He explained that after leaving his family, who rejected him because of his horrible appearance, Eric worked as an illusionist and assassin for the Shah in Persia, where he became an expert at torture technique. The Persians notes that Eric was one of the workers who built the Paris Opera House, the Palais Garnier. In this way, he was able to build a complex system of walls and traps that would allow him to come and go at the will without being seen like a ghost. In the torture chamber, Rahul and Parsians hear Eric give Christine the choice either to marry him or to die. Although Christine initially plans to die so to remain faithful to her love for Rahul, she later discovered that Eric plans to blow up the entire opera house if she rejects him. As a result, she agrees to become Eric's wife. She asks Eric to release Rahul and the Persians from the torture chamber, which he does. Despite being horrified by Eric's appearance, Christine remained committed to her promise to be Eric's wife. When Eric removes his mask and kisses her on the forehead, he begins to cry, saying that no other woman has ever let him touch her like this. Christine began to cry as well, convinced that this must be a sign of Christine's love. Eric is deeply moved and realizes that he no longer wants to keep Christine captive against her will. He decides to free her, allowing her to escape peacefully with Raoul. He makes her promise to put the ring he gave her on his finger when he dies. Dying of love, Eric visits the Persians to whom he recounts these events, and the Persians in turn later tells the narrator about them. Eric says that Count Philip died while trying to rescue his brother by crossing the underground lake. However, Eric says that he played no part in Philip's death as the Count was dead before he found him. Eric then dies, and the person places an announcement in the newspaper about it. When the narrator later discovers a body under the opera wearing this ring, he realizes that Christine has obeyed the phantom's dying wish, and that his body constitute unequivocal proof that the phantom of the opera actually exists. So this is the story of the Phantom of Opera. Thank you very much.